And for this first group, I am going to be covering 4 of the study areas. So we're going to go in order. Study area 1 is this northern segment of El Camino that's close to Burlingame. Study area 4 is the downtown area. Study area 5 is primarily along San Mateo Drive, and it connects up to Peninsula Avenue. And then study area 7 is sort of straddling the Highway 101 on both sides, and then a little bit of the Shoreview area. So as Joanna has mentioned earlier, there's 2 key questions that we're asking participants. So generally, is this the right range of alternative scenarios? And then are there ideas or changes that are missing that you would like to see evaluated? And in terms of just introductions, my name is Julia Klein, and with me this evening are Wendy Lau. She is the associate planner. There's some video issues with her connection currently, but she is taking notes. And then in the room also is Nick, the chat manager. So if you have chat comments or questions, please go ahead and send it to Nick. Okay, and so just roughly, I'll go ahead and go through this real quickly. I think, we'll have a chance to go through all of the study areas. And there's 3 different alternatives, and we'll go ahead and kind of highlight what are the key differences between the 3 as we go. And again, these are the 2 key questions that we're focusing on this evening. And so I won't read them again, just since we read them earlier. In terms of the questions, Joanna gave in her presentation some of the types of sample comments that we are looking for. And certainly you can ask any questions that you would like to help further understanding. And then we can have verbal comments as well as comments that you sent to Nick for the chat to me. And then just very, very high level, alternative A has the least amount of change in terms of the designations and the lowest residential growth. Alternative B, when you take everything cumulatively, it has the second highest residential growth, and it spreads that growth and is sort of mid-range heights. And it's, so it spreads all of that sort of evenly more across the 10 study areas. Alternative C has the highest residential growth and concentrates that growth and the tallest changes in the density in your transit corridor areas. And so that would be along the Caltrain corridor and as well as the downtown. So again, as I said, we would cover study area 1 first, and that's the northern segment of El Camino. The key existing land use designations are a mix of medium to high density residential housing, and then in between there's smatterings of office uses. That's sort of mixed in with high density housing. So that's sort of mixed use. So in terms of the 3 alternatives, this is alternative A. As you'll note in alternative A, the key difference here that you want to focus on is the color here that's in blue. And so that matches with the mixed use medium designation that's in the table at the top. In addition to that, you'll see that there is a, not a purple, but like a dark brown parcel at the end of the southern end of El Camino. That is sort of high density residential, and that same area that's brown is reflected in all 3 all 3 alternatives. The other areas to kind of notice in terms of alternative A that is different is that in the middle of alternative A in El Camino and Poplar, you'll notice that this area right here where the word real, El Camino real, that real word is, that is designated as low residential. And that area changes in alternative B and C. In alternative B, that same area is designated as commercial neighborhood. And then in alternative C, that area goes back to medium residential. So those are the key differences among the 3. And then I just wanted to focus in on the table at the bottom in terms of the net new residential units. So alternative A has the lowest in terms of net new homes at 650. And then job growth and population growth is also different here between alternative A, B, and C. So we can open it up to any questions or comments. Is there any interest in me zooming in on any of these areas to be able to read them? Does anybody live near in any of this area? Okay, great. For some reason, I am only able to see 3 people at a time. So, Nick, are there any other individuals indicating chat comments or questions?
Yes, we are just getting our first 2. A request to zoom in on the Poplar El Camino alternate B option.
Sure. Does that help a little bit?
And another question, which is, if all 3 are designated as medium orange, how are the numbers so different or so affected? That's what it says.
So and this goes, let me go ahead and go down to, I have at the end of the slide, so don't mind me right now. Okay, so when we're talking about the different ranges of housing units, the colors reflect an actual range in terms of the dwelling units itself. And so the orange color is 40 units to 99 units per acre. And so what that means is you might have a building that looks the same on the outside, but within the inside of the building, there could be, a difference in terms of the number of dwelling units. And as you're looking at, so let's go back to study area 1. Even though the colors are orange, maybe in study area A, this color of orange has the lower end of that density range, while in, say, alternative B, the orange color reflects a higher range, the higher end of that range in terms of dwelling units.
Looks like we're getting a comment to consider higher density residential in that space. I assume that space means that El Camino and Poplar area for our note taker. Question for all options, when we're changing zoning and residential, if we're still going to have food, restaurants, mini markets, etc., yeah, that's a question around the tension, I think, between those 2 ideas.
So, and that's a good question. As we're looking at which properties are where their zoning designation or the land use designation changes, that is one of those questions that we need to look at for each of these study areas is, of the parcels that are remaining, are there still going to be opportunities for services, and grocery shopping, so the daily amenities that residents need. And so that is something that we will be looking as part of the technical studies. Currently right now, as we're looking, on study area 1, the majority of the uses in study area 1 are already a mix of offices and residential. And so the existing residents, as they look at amenities and shopping services, many of them seek that in the downtown area, or they, if for those that are closer to Burlingame, they seek opportunities in Burlingame. But in general, as we look at land use changes, as we look at neighborhoods, existing areas as well, we are looking at where people are able to access services and how they get there in terms of the circulation aspect of it. Any additional comments?
Tim, you put a couple comments into the message. In multitasking, I didn't quite understand those. If you want to raise your hand and say that now, you'd be welcome to, or we can move on. A question about if residential density increases, do parking garages get added as well?
In terms of each individual residential project, as they come in, they would be subject to current parking requirements that are in effect at the time. And so I don't know the scale of the projects that would come in, but that's generally how parking is addressed, is as the projects come in, we evaluated for the parking requirements that are in place at that time.
So just a time check, we have about 12 minutes together as this group, just because we are running a little behind.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should zoom or
let's go on to the next one.
Thank you.
Yes. So the next area is study area 4, and this is downtown. And as I mentioned earlier, there's some differences between the 3 alternatives. Alternative A, as you'll note, it's mostly this medium mixed use. This is that medium shade of blue. As we go into alternative B, you'll see that there's this darker blue, which is high mixed use. And so mixed use is basically a combination of commercial as well as residential uses. And then as you go into alternative C, you'll see that there's more of that darker blue. And so there's more mixed use. You'll notice in all 3 alternatives, there's an area that's outlined in black in the middle, and that's the downtown historic district. And so in all 3 alternatives, that area is being preserved at this medium density mixed use option. The other thing to kind of point out is that in alternative A, as you go from El Dorado to Highway 101, you'll see that this is that orange color for residential medium. And that's the same in alternative B. In alternative C, you'll see that the medium orange color is still in the middle, but as you go out to these, it sort of tapers down into that lower residential color. So that reflects a transition in terms of the density and the massing.
A request to zoom in on alternative B.
Sure. Let me know if there are any questions or comments.
Comment that alternative A has more jobs and that jobs are necessary.
Thank you for that comment. And then are there any other comments or questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. People can also unmute if you would prefer to verbalize your questions or comments.
A comment to that one of the few places that should allow taller buildings are downtown. That's favorable. We have a hand raised. Gustavo, go ahead.
Hi, Nick. How, Julia? I live and work in this study area 4. And to my surprise, I can see that even there is so much construction around our home in South Delaware between 5th and 7th. And even the city had approved recently the Mid-Peninsula buildings and the garage that will bring 700 vehicles with 5 floors and a building with 7 floors and 80-foot tall structure. I can't understand who and how brought the idea of lowering the density of our block from 5th to 9th in South Delaware, while we will be completely shadowed by the new constructions, which means loss of privacy. We will lose our privacy. We will lose a lot of sunlight, and it changes completely our way of life. But even though I'm pretty sure that nobody asked the owners or residents in the area. If not, nobody will be able to vote to have alternative B and C with an area completely lowering what we already have. So until today, with my wife, Jessica, she's in the room too, and she will vote by herself. And of course, we agree in this. We were supporting building height and density increasing in the area, but we never expected that anyone will lower our block suddenly to create like a sandwich where we are suffering the consequences of an increased building height and density, but out of the blue, they will lower ours. This is completely unfair, and we think that it's not inclusive. We are from Hispanic origin, and we feel really that nobody asked us or took care about our situation. And we are not alone. There are many people from Hispanic origin in the area. I believe that they don't know what is going on. And part of what this general plan needs to bring to the table is for the people and owners and residents to know the consequences of such a change in the general plan. Thank you.
So Gustavo, thank you for coming in and sharing that. There's a couple of things I want to mention, and your questions and comments help give me an opportunity to kind of explain that. What we're looking at today is not choosing an alternative. What we're basically asking is, for these areas, and rightly so, if you are in this area and you think that this zoning or this land use designation should be a higher designation, that's exactly the kind of comment that we're looking for at this time. And I think what you had indicated is that currently, it's residential medium along Delaware,
right,
which is reflected in alternative A. If this is how you feel, this is appropriate, then I think your comment would be that these other alternatives should factor that in. And so this is exactly your opportunity to provide that kind of comment. And so I do really appreciate you, speaking up. So Nick is taking notes, and we'll include that in the notes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Another comment from someone who works on the northwest corner of Crystal Springs and El Camino in the Versailles. It's a fairly new building. Alt-C shows it changing to office, which was torn down before this was built. So that seems absurd. Time check, we have about 4.5 minutes and 2 other areas.
So that's a good comment. Thank you for doing that. And Nick will note that, and we'll make sure that's captured, and we'll address that. So if there's no more, we can always come back to downtown. Why don't we go to the other 2, and then we can always come back if we have time. So next is alternative area study 5. I'm sorry, I'm having coughing issues. So this is the San Mateo Drive area, and it comes up to Peninsula. And in terms of the key differences between the 3 alternatives, you note that this is right now an alternative A. In the middle where San Mateo Drive and Popper intersect, this is red and purple. The red is neighborhood commercial, and that is also reflected in alternative C. The purple, which is low office, that's reflected in both alternative A and B, in A and C. And then in alternative B, this area is indicated as a mixed use medium. The other areas that you'll note that are changing between these 3 different alternatives is the change in the orange color in alternative A. Some of these areas are a lighter orange color, which is the low residential, versus the darker orange, which is the medium residential. And along Peninsula Avenue, you note that in alternative A, that's low residential, alternative B, that's medium residential, and then in alternative C, all of this area is changing to mixed use low. And so those are the key differences. And oops, wanted to also show the table at the bottom in terms of the changes in net new dwelling units and jobs and population. Are there any questions?
None yet. Oh, but Gustavo, I think your hand is raised. Forgive me, I'm not sure if that's raised from before or raised anew.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Is there any additional questions? Anybody would like to raise their hand or send a comment or question to Nick at Chat to Me? Or if you would like me to zoom in on any of these, I can certainly do that as well. Otherwise, how much time do we have left? We can also go to study area 7 and come back.
2 minutes. Maybe
2
we
minutes.
should just.
Let's go to study area 7. So study area 7 is along 101, and this is the northern segment. It's partly in North Central and partly in North Shore View. The key differences among these 3 alternatives is that in alternative A, you'll notice that all of this area remains service commercial. In alternative B, some of those areas change to medium residential, and then the darker brown is the high residential. And then in alternative C, all of that area that's the 3 blocks toward the south, all of that is changing to that medium residential. The other thing to note in terms of key differences is that the Shoreview Market area, the Shoreview Shopping Center area, there is a change in that area. So in alternative A, that's a low mixed use. Alternative B, that's medium mixed use. And then in alternative C, that shopping center is indicated as high mixed use. So are there any key areas that you would like me to zoom in on? Are there any questions or comments?
Comment that someone doesn't think anybody would want to live so close to 101, and a comment for the previous study area 5 to please modernize the area.
Thank you for those comments. Any additional ones? Otherwise, what I can do, Wendy is furiously typing away to try to capture your comments and your questions. So are there any, I think we have 1 more minute, right? Are there any additional comments on study area 5 or 7 that you would like me to, any area to zoom in on, or any questions or comments? Going once?
Comment that commercial service on Amplet could be modernized as well. Commercial service on Amplet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then so I just want to note that Wendy is typing and capturing the comments, and also we will be capturing the comments and questions that are sent to Nick on chat, and those will be sort of transferred and then posted on the city's website. And if after this meeting, give us a few weeks just to make sure we've got everything together, but it will all be captured and posted online. All right, are there any additional, we have a little bit of time left. Are there any additional questions or comments?
I would mention that I think your time is about to end, and if we have some time, it might be a good time to recap a little bit.
So certainly. Let me see if I can share the other screen. So in terms of the comments that have been submitted so far, can everybody see? For El Camino, I think, we indicated that the.
Yes, we can see.
Oh, perfect. So in terms of, there was a few questions that were asked and those were noted. I think we've also indicated in here that a comment that was made that alternative A has more jobs and the jobs are necessary. In the downtown area, it was noted that a few places, the few places that should allow taller places should be in downtown. So thank you for that comment. And then also a comment that, this individual lives and works in study area 4, and they would like to see this area sort of remaining that medium residential. So we did capture that comment here. And for study area 5, the comment was to keep the area, to modernize the area.
Hey, could I jump in?
Yes.
That was my comment, and it looks like I'm talking about Peninsula Avenue, although that's the area. I specifically meant the San Mateo Drive area leading in that direction, basically from Baldwin heading north, could do with the facelift.
Thank you. Thank you for that
Thank you.
clarification.
Hey, Julia, we're here
We're
to
out of time.
Oh,
kick
yes.
you to your next room.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you for your time.
So our new
All right.
facilitator, Brian, is here to help us move through the next round of discussion. Brian?
Thanks, Nick. Hey, everybody. So I am going to be leading you through a discussion about a couple of portions of study area 1. Study area 3, which is the largest study area we have. It includes Hayward Park and Hillsdale Caltrain stations. It includes the Hillsdale Mall, Burrell Square Shopping Center. So all of this area here along El Camino. And then study area 8, which is the 101-92 interchange here. And so we'll be going through each of these in this session. If you have a particular interest in any one of these, please drop them in the chat. Based on prior breakouts, I'm guessing that there will be a lot of discussion about study area 3, but let's just jump in with 8 first, just to sort of get oriented, and then we can move on to 3 once we sort of have gotten some comments about that particular area. So study area 8 is the 101-92 interchange area, as I mentioned. And so right now it includes this office park here, the Marriott just to the north, and then there's another office complex up here along 101. It includes the Parkside Plaza Shopping Center, and then this office complex down here to the south of 92. And so I'll just sort of review the main differences between each of the 3 alternatives and then open it up for questions and feedback. So as you can see, this large parcel up here to the north end of the study area is different in B versus A and C. So in alternative A and alternative C, it's a residential low designation, and it does include this privately owned public open space here. And the same is true for B. It has that open space component, but it's a residential medium designation here, so slightly more dense than in alternatives A or C. The Marriott stays the same in all 3 alternatives, and as does this office complex here at the corner of 101 and 92. These 2 parcels to the west side of that office complex are mixed use low in alternative A and medium in alternatives B and C. And then Parkside Plaza is different in each of the 3. So in alternative A, it's a mixed use low designation. So 1 to 3 story, it could include a combination of residential and retail, a number of different things. In alternative B, it's a residential medium designation. So 4 to 7 stories of retail. And then in alternative C, it's a mixed use medium. So it could be a combination again of residential and a retail use. And then the last major difference is this parcel down here, which is currently office. In alternative A, it's an office medium designation. Alternative B, it's residential low, so 1 to 3 story residential. And then in alternative C, it's residential medium, so 4 to 7 stories are residential. So I will open it up for comments. I know this is a lot to take in. And so perhaps while we're collecting those, just to highlight the main differences between the alternatives at a high level. So like with the city as a whole, alternative A projects the least amount of growth in terms of population here in study area 8. B and C are actually quite similar in terms of population growth. It's about 2,500 for alternative B, 2,700 for alternative C. Just a matter of where within the study area that future growth is projected to occur.
Great. We have a question, where can we find full-size graphics for each area showing street names, for example?
So the strivesanmateo.org page has an electronic version of a lot of this that is an interactive exercise. And so you'll be able to not only look at some of these maps even closer on your screen, but there's also a satellite overlay. You can sort of play around with the different settings of the maps to try to get at some of the answers to your questions and orient yourself to what you're looking at. No questions so far?
Not yet.
Okay. We can give maybe another 30 seconds or so, and then I can move on to study area 3 because I want to make sure we spend some time on that.
Comment to like to see the waterfront area remain free for a park or question mark.
Okay. So I'm assuming that's this area, the fish market area here, which is a commercial neighborhood in A and C and a mixed use medium in B. So perhaps either a green space or maybe incorporating one of these privately owned public open spaces into the land use. Thank you for that.
A comment that there's a preference for a particular option, but which was B, but that they think medium mixed use residential makes more sense for the fish market area.
Okay. All right, let's maybe move to study area 3. And if some more comments come in, Nick, we can also revisit this particular study area as well.
Final comment on that was save the waterfront.
Okay. So as I mentioned, study area 3 is the largest of the study areas, and it includes basically the El Camino Real corridor from just north of 92 all the way down here to the south end of the Hillsdale Shopping Center. And as you look at this map between the 3 alternatives, you'll probably want to focus your attention to the west of the Caltrain line here, because much of the changes that are being proposed in each of the 3 alternatives are focused in this area, primarily because this area to the east of Caltrain is either governed by existing recent development like Concar and Station Park Green, or proposed development or Bay Meadows. So a lot of it stays the same between the 3 alternatives. A lot of the changes are going to be to the west of the Caltrain line. So just to summarize some of the highlights of the differences between the 3 alternatives, this Burrell Square Shopping Center, which is up here, and again, this is 92 and El Camino here, this interchange. The Burrell Square Shopping Center is a mixed-use medium designation here in alternative A. 25th Avenue corridor, which is down here, is a mixed-use low designation. And then Hillsdale Mall is a combination between regional commercial and mixed-use medium. In alternative B, the Burrell Square Shopping Center is a residential medium. 25th Avenue is mixed-use medium, so slightly more dense than the mixed-use low in alternative A. And Hillsdale Shopping Center, again, is a combination between commercial, regional, and mixed-use medium down here at the southern end of the study area. And then in alternative C, the Burrell Square Shopping Center is mixed-use high, so it could potentially be 8+ stories of a combination of residential and retail. The 25th Avenue corridor is still designated as mixed-use medium here. And then Hillsdale Mall is actually a combination between mixed-use high and mixed-use medium in alternative C. So I can pull up any of these 3 alternatives individually on the screen, but I also have them sort of in the side-by-side comparison so you can see the primary differences between the 3 of them. I know it's a lot of map to cover, so it may be difficult to see. So if anyone needs me to zoom in on one in particular, let me know.
I have 3 questions.
Yep.
First question is, can different study areas implement different alternatives? For example, study alternative A for area 7, alternative C for area 8. Take
Yes.
them one at a time.
Yep. So that is definitely some of the feedback we're looking for through this process. If it turns out that we want to look at A in study area 3, for example, and B in study area 8, like there is certainly open for the combination of those different uses across the different study areas.
Second question, by mixed use medium for Hillsdale Mall, that was in one of the examples, does
Yep.
that mean adding residential?
Not necessarily. And again, this is, for the purposes of this exercise is thinking through if this land use changes, if it's redeveloped, what would we want, what parameters would we want to set on that redevelopment? So it could potentially include the addition of residential, but that's not necessarily, just by having that as an option here doesn't necessarily dictate that residential will be added to that particular parcel.
Third question, is Station Park Green part of the new RENA quota, or is it part of the existing RENA quota?
It should be part of the existing RENA quota. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Sandy.
Yeah, that's correct, because it's just about completed. So
Okay.
we still have a couple more years of our existing RENA. So
A comment that residential at Hillsdale Mall would be good.
okay. One of the things we're curious is if anybody has an idea of something that's not reflected on the map. It's hard. It's a big area. It's hard to look at all at once, but
Yeah. Yeah, if there are changes that you think don't make sense, if there are changes not incorporated here that you think could be feasible or useful for a particular section.
An additional comment to support higher density in and around Hillsdale Mall and Caltrain stations. Another comment, the current site use map doesn't have the date for the 25th Avenue buildings, but believes they're older than 1980. And there may be one that's in that vicinity to the northwest that's historic. It's one of the few walkable commercial areas on the southern side and has lots of unique businesses. I would like to see it protected along with 37th Avenue.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
is that, I'm sorry, I just wanted to, so that's for 25th Avenue? Or 20th? I thought,
Yeah, for 25th Avenue.
25th, yes.
And 37th, right?
Along with 37th, which I sense there's the implications that's covered elsewhere.
I think it's actually like the very southern end of this study area in between 1 and 3. So. Okay, we can move to 1 just to make sure that we have time to get through all of it. But if folks have additional comments, we welcome those as well about study area 3. So this is the northern, or I guess in the scheme of things, the central portion of study area 1. So it runs from just south of Central Park in downtown to just north of 92 along El Camino. And so as you can see from the existing general plan land use, it's a mixture mostly of commercial and mixed use uses right now. And so to highlight the main differences between the 3 alternatives, you could sort of divide it in half. So about 12th Avenue North and then 12th Avenue South. So between A, B, and C, A has the lowest density, and this is low density mixed use, primarily north of 12th Avenue. Alternative B, it's a combination between mixed use medium. There's a mixed use high parcel up here as well. And then again, here it's mostly mixed use medium and alternative C in the northern part of the study area. South of 12th Avenue, it's a combination here in alternative A of mixed use medium and office high, which is these dark purple parcels here. This dark brown is a residential high in alternative B. So several of those parcels that are medium mixed use in A are high density residential in alternative B. And then it's mostly mixed use medium here in alternative C, again, with a couple of those parcels remaining as office high. And then the southernmost parcel here would be mixed use high in alternative B, but office high in A and C.
Time check, we have about 6 minutes left.
Okay. It's actually better than I thought we were doing.
And as those comments kind of trickle in, what we did get a couple of questions there at the tail end.
Sure.
Regarding the previous study area. Is the Concar Shopping Center development that has been approved but not started part of the new RENA or the previous or existing rather?
I can answer that, Brian, if you don't.
Sure.
We think that will qualify for the new RENA. It's a timing issue as long as it doesn't get built by a certain time, and I think we're assuming it's in the new RENA.
Some comments, El Camino would have to be made a lot safer for pedestrians before large, big apartments are put on it. Comment for the aesthetics, would like to see buildings stay lower, no more than 4 stories in this area. Tall buildings downtown only.
Okay. And I can do the one last portion of study area 1 in case, and while we have anybody who might be commenting, we can come back to this one. But this is this very small portion of El Camino, between about 36th and 40th. And you can see here, it's mostly a regional or community commercial and a neighborhood commercial designation now. And so between the 3 study areas, looking at study or alternative A, you have mostly commercial neighborhood, and the commercial neighborhood designation is primarily retail locations that will serve the immediately surrounding community. So it could be things like nail salons or small mom and pop shops that would this neighborhood would utilize. And you also have a mixed use low designation up here where the current FedEx is located. Here in alternative B, you have some residential low designations on the south side of 37th Avenue, and then mixed use low here along the west side of El Camino. And then here in alternative C, it's commercial neighborhood on the north end of the study area, and then a mixed use low designation primarily along 37th Avenue and south on El Camino. And then the southernmost portion here would be commercial neighborhood again. So any thoughts on this study area or the previous section of study area 1 that we just discussed?
Nick, I'd like to ask a clarifying question. The comment about no more than 4-story residential along El Camino, was that, I mean, we've looked at 3 different study areas on El Camino. Was that on a particular location or just in general? Do you know? I want to make sure I capture it in the right area.
Apologies. The implication, I believe, is all areas of El Camino that are not downtown as a general statement. But if the commenter would like to, thank you.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
There are a couple of comments here as well that the long strip on Pacific should be residential.
Okay.
And that the sorry, here it's distributed across several areas. something dating to 1947 has great unique businesses. On 37th. Okay, so this is connecting back to the counterpoints to the earlier conversation. 37th should be protected. It has some great unique businesses. And that another commenter, different comment altogether, is that 4-story along El Camino isn't sufficient. It should allow far higher heights and densities, at least 8 stories, at least 100 units per acre. And thank you, relating to 37th.
Okay, I'm happy to put up any of the study areas that we've talked about if anyone wants to take an additional look at the maps as well. If you've formulated some comments or had some additional questions, we can certainly go back.
About 1 minute.
Okay. I'm glad you're staying on top of the time because it's slipping away quickly.
You know, perhaps with respect to any of these neighborhood commercial corridors that some folks have expressed preference in having special attention paid to them. If anyone wants to kind of expound upon that, develop that you know what that might look like. If they have any specific thoughts to that, that'd be
okay. I think we just got told to move on, so
okay.
We may need to move to our next breakout session. But thank you everybody for your participation. Really appreciate your time and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Manford. I'm a transportation planner with Nelson Nygaard. We're the transportation planning consultant that's working with PlaceWorks and leading the circulation element of the general plan. And with me today, yeah, there she is. The screen's jumped around. Is Sue Ellen, who works with the city of San Mateo. She's a transportation planner, and she can help answer. She'll be taking notes and can also answer some questions about from the city's perspective. And then Carrie Stone is also here, who's the project manager with PlaceWorks. So let me share my screen. We can go over the alternatives. So I'll zoom out at first and kind of go over it. And then we can zoom in a little bit to get at the details. But stepping back for a minute, what these alternatives represent is what we heard from the public at multiple meetings and what we've heard from council. And also what we've looked at other cities are doing and kind of innovative and creative approaches. And then it also reflects any adopted plan that the city has. So that's things like the bike master plan, the pedestrian master plan, and you know, ongoing things like the grade separation of Caltrain. Those are shown, those crossings are shown in gray here. Those are going to be on all the plans or all the alternatives here. Another plan to note, it's not on here, but the city will be soon starting a complete streets planning process, and that complete streets plan will take the vision and the alternatives articulated in the general plan and kind of look at the implementation steps. So when we get to the details around an intersection, those types of things, those should be mostly in the complete streets plan. And then this plan also is cognizant of and kind of designed around these alternatives, some of the regional plans. So the express lanes on 101, the Caltrain business plan that's going to improve service in 2023 and then 2040. Those things are also considered in these alternatives. So that's kind of the big picture where we're at with transportation. And then now I'll zoom into the alternatives. So I'll start here in the north of the city. Alternative A is prioritizing a walkable city. So the green dotted lines represent the pedestrian kind of pedestrian greenway network as mapped in the pedestrian master plan. And so that's looking at different types of improvements and sidewalk completion to make those connections better for pedestrians. And then the orange or red on some people's screens line, this is the Bay Trail, represent kind of multi-use path or trail for bike and pedestrians and skateboards, that type of thing. Where it's dotted is a future one. So this one is a new crossing at Cypress of US 101. So that is part of this alternative. But some of these other ones are as envisioned in the recently adopted bike plan or existing PED plan. The purple lines where they're solid, that's an existing bike lane, and where they're dotted, that's a future condition. And sometimes where they're both, which I'm sure is impossible to see, that's kind of an improvement of an existing lane. So it doesn't necessarily say, is it protected? Is it a, green bike corridor? It's just showing that it's kind of part of that bike plan. I think that's all the colors. So what makes alternative A a walkable city is also, in addition to that US 101 crossing, these dark blue lines, you'll see them kind of scattered, are missing sidewalks. So completing the missing sidewalks in the study areas. And then this light blue here on B Street downtown is pedestrianizing those 2 blocks in downtown. And then as an idea, an alternative. And then the green line on El Camino is looking at, a high quality, which on El Camino would probably mean protected bikeway along the corridor and other public realm improvements to make it a nicer place to walk and to access transit. Another aspect of this plan, this alternative is several of the study areas have highways in them. And so to kind of connect them to each other and make them safer, looking at safety improvements, that's the big blue dot, at the off ramps, on ramps. And then also here, kind of completing the missing sidewalk and enhancing the bikeway through the interchange. There's a similar one in study area 9, kind of improving those off ramps so that it's safer as these parcels, are considered for land use alternatives. So those are the main points in alternative A that would hopefully make these areas more walkable. The alternative B, again, as I mentioned, Caltrain business plan is going to have improved service frequencies, some more trains, and they'll be a little bit faster. So let's make sure that everyone can get there who wants to take it. Hopefully it won't be crowded at peak because there'll be more trains, all that kind of great stuff. So no changes in the downtown for this one, but looking at, sorry, it's taking a while to scroll, but how do we make sure, especially these planned growth areas or study areas in such as 6 and 10 and 9, so Fashion Island and over by San Mateo, College of San Mateo College, make sure that they have access to transit. And so looking at, here we go. Sorry, I don't know why my computer got so slow. So running on mostly on Hillsdale Boulevard, is there, this gold line is kind of a new transit route east-west that's connecting Fashion Island, is connecting study area 9 to Hillsdale Station, and then is also going kind of west to better connect the western part of the city to Hillsdale Station. Hillsdale Station gets the most frequent existing and future service. And then in addition to that, on El Camino Real, is there BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, also called BRT, which is kind of a suite of improvements to bus transit to provide a higher quality experience. And that could be things like dedicated bus lanes, signal preemption, so the light turns green when the bus comes, enhanced stops, enhanced buses, off-board payment, all different types of things designed to enhance the experience of transit. Let me just zoom out so you can see kind of that new east-west route. So this gold line connecting Study Area 6 to Hillsdale Station, and then going, Hillsdale Boulevard, and then over into Fashion Island. And then the third alternative is looking at kind of all of the above, supporting walking, connecting to regional transit, and then is there some kind of future technology we should be looking at and planning for in all our in our alternatives? So one kind of urban design concept that we're looking at is pioneered in Barcelona, but the super block concept, because downtown is a grid. And so what that does is it, rather than allowing kind of through traffic at every intersection, you kind of turn right. So you can still get where you're going in a car, but it's a little bit less convenient, and it opens up a lot of space in the intersection that could be a plaza or a park. And just kind of a way to calm traffic and enhance the downtown. So that's just a kind of a cool urban design idea we're looking at. We're also looking at El Camino. What can we do to really enhance the street for people? Is there a way to do bus improvements and public realm improvements and a bikeway? So looking at kind of all of the above for El Camino, whereas before we were looking at one or the other. And then the last aspect of Alternative C is, this new transit service that we looked at in Alternative B. That's probably going to be some kind of either Caltrain shuttle or maybe a partnership with Samtrans to do a new route. Is there a way that this could be kind of an automated shuttle? Let's say this starts in 10, 15 years. Where is driverless technology going to be? Is that something that's possible? And so the concept exists today is called a route deviated shuttle. And so either you can call a number or use an app to kind of select a ride within a service area, and then usually a small bus or shuttle kind of runs this route, but maybe it'll come further out to pick you up. But are there ways in the future that kind of thing could be more automated? So those are the three alternatives. And so what we're asking you tonight is, is there anything missing from this that you want us to study? Are there ideas that you have that you'd like us to study? Anything that's missing that you'd like to see evaluated? And if you have any questions too.
Go ahead and read off a couple quick comments we've already received, and we have our first question. Before I do, I just want a housekeeping announcement. All the comments that are entered through the chat, we do record those as part of the formal public comment. So there'll be a transcript of all of that available, and that will absolutely be considered as part of the input that we're gathering here. And so thank everybody for being active participants. And if you haven't yet been active on commenting, maybe now is your chance. There are a couple of us who have been following along. If there's some input you're able to provide, we'd be grateful for it. A couple comments. We have a thank you from someone who had to leave early and is grateful for everyone's effort. We have a comment: as a frequent pedestrian, I avoid El Camino due to noise. No need to improve the walkways there, in my opinion. Walking and biking elsewhere than El Camino would be preferable. And a question: are there studies showing that folks would really use buses? They are mostly empty now.
Yeah, there are studies that show that people would use buses, and there's bus rapid transit and the term BRT kind of came about because of federal efforts and federal funding and studies to kind of create that infrastructure concept. So something like a BRT, if it's built, to like a high enough standard on El Camino, which currently has, I think it's 16,000 daily riders on El Camino, but that might not be the right number, but has the most ridership in the city. It has the potential, and we've seen elsewhere where that ridership goes up. So hopefully that answers the question.
A comment supporting looking at Barcelona superblocks and suggesting that the team also looks in El Paso, Texas for bus and transit ideas, support for alternative C, and a request to look specifically at sidewalk widths. It says, I can barely push a stroller down some of them when they actually exist. And some streets are too narrow and shouldn't have street parking if they don't have sidewalks.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. And just to note too, the complete streets plan is definitely going to be looking at some of those width comments.
Additional housekeeping, we have about 7+ minutes to discuss circulation.
Yeah, thanks for the comments so far. And if anyone wants me to move the map around, it's also available to look at strivesanmateo.org. And I know it could be a little hard to read, so if you want me to repeat anything from earlier, I can as well.
2 comments. Bikes and buses on El Camino are not a good mix. When I rode, I used parallel routes like Palm Avenue or San Mateo Avenue as safer alternatives to El Camino. Another comment. We were told in the beginning that traffic impact would be addressed in the next phase. Please, we need this.
Yeah, thanks. And that does come up. So the traffic will be studied as part of these alternatives, and both in the different land uses, how that will affect traffic, as well as the transportation alternatives themselves or circulation alternatives themselves. So those types of things are studied. Yeah, and I've said it before in some of the other areas, but there's also things like, where traffic is spilling over into the street. The city does have a neighborhood traffic management program, and there are some things to do to kind of try and prevent that spillover. And then on the other hand, on streets where people are experiencing traffic and highways, there's larger regional efforts to address that, but then there's also within the city more technological upgrades and other, so enhancing the signals and signal timing types of things that can be done that aren't going to be as invasive as, widening a street that's already really wide, because that makes it less safe for people to walk and bike. And also, since the city is so built out, that's something you see in a new city as they're kind of annexing new areas. But for a city like San Mateo, it's hard to build a lot of large new streets. So we're trying to address traffic really holistically at a high level. And it's a little bit less about, we're gonna kind of optimize the street network by widening here and widening there.
Brian, just one comment on the comments regarding north-south alternatives for bicycle travel as opposed to El Camino. I'd encourage anyone who is interested in taking a deeper look at the proposed bike network to look at our bike implementation page, which is cityofsanmateo.org/bike plan. And that follows along while we're implementing the bike plan, but you can also view the proposed network map, and that has the full proposed bicycle network for the foreseeable future, including alternative north-south and east-west connections to our more congested roadways. And as part of the Bike Master Plan, El Camino is identified for future study and future discussion as a whole rather than certain segments. So just a note for anyone interested in looking at that a little deeper.
Thanks.
A couple of comment questions. I live on 42nd, and we have a lot of through traffic between El Camino and Alameda. Have you looked into traffic calming over here and other through streets? And why wasn't signal timing looked into ages ago? LA has had it for 30 years.
Yeah, so as I said, this plan isn't necessarily looking at that like street level for the kind of operations network, and operations meaning like all the signals in the street. We're looking more at the infrastructure level. And then as far as where the city's at currently on signal timing, I don't know, Sue Ellen, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, in addition to the neighborhood traffic management plans, there are also individual traffic action plans that Public Works worked with individual neighborhoods on developing. So I'd look into if there is one established for that 42nd Avenue neighborhood. I'm not familiar offhand, but look into that or contact Public Works about pressing current issues. In terms of traffic signals, I believe that there is work in progress or in the near future on a traffic signal master plan to do that work on interconnecting signals and having a plan for the future on signal timing in addition to what we have currently. So thanks for the comment, and we'll be sure to keep that in mind and work doing that work.
About 3 more minutes, so. We got a question here. What are the purple dots on 42nd?
Yeah, so the purple color is part of the existing bike, or sorry, the dot is future. So it's part of the adopted bike plan. So it's a future bikeway. So, and I say bikeway because it could be a bike lane, it could be kind of just a greenway or bike boulevard, or so I'm not sure exactly which it is. And the website that Sue Ellen mentioned would have more info on that.
It's a proposed bike boulevard.
Okay. And so a bike boulevard, for those who aren't familiar, it's not necessarily a lane, it's kind of traffic calming and signage and other changes to the street to calm traffic and make it more comfortable for biking as in a shared lane.
Follow-up comment that would be dangerous on 42nd Street.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a long night, so I appreciate the rest. But if there's any other questions or comments, anything kind of, let's say, big picture or radical that you have always thought of or would want to see, we'd love to hear anything like that. Or just whatever another city that you know of is doing. That's good too.
Our facilitators are being called to their next room. So thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you all. Enjoy your last session.
While we're awaiting our next and last group of facilitators, I just really want to thank all of you for continuing to be really proactive with a great set of questions and comments. Thank you so much for staying with us at this hour. Thank you. Here are our two, our new facilitator and note taker.
Hi, everyone. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. One moment. Thank you, Nick. And so just to formally introduce myself and my note taker, my name is Linda Lee. I am an associate planner with the City of San Mateo. I also have Nikki Vu, who will be capturing all your comments, questions, and notes. And he's a housing specialist with the city. And so tonight, the study areas that we will cover, that includes study area 2, Bell Mateo Bowl, Molly Stone Shopping Center. Study area 6, this is the Campus Drive area with Laurelwood Shopping Center. 9 is the Hillsdale Norfolk area. And lastly, 10, Bridgepoint Shopping Center. Sorry, it looks like my screen sharing stopped. Let me try that again. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I accidentally had my phone on my spacebar, so it was rushing through the slides. Okay, so back on track. We'll start on study area 2. This is the Bell Mateo Bowl Molly Stone Shopping Center area. And just to provide everyone a sense of the existing land use. So what you see in the teal color, this is represented as a mix of neighborhood commercial, high density multifamily. This is where the Bell Mateo Bowl, Molly Stone Shopping Center, and CVS is. Along El Camino Real, there's also this brown color that's for regional community commercial and high density multifamily use allowed. East of El Camino Real and Pacific Boulevard, you'll see that the current general plan land use allows for the red color, neighborhood commercial. The pink is represented as, that is for service commercial. And along 40th Ave and East 41st Place, that currently allows for high density multifamily. In the different alternatives that we are considering for study area 2, A, B, and C would look at introducing low-rise residential use within the Molly Stone Market and Bell Mateo Bowl Shopping Center. That's represented as the light orange color. B and C would look at introducing mixed use. So the light blue color that you see within along El Camino Real and also east and west, that is low-rise mixed use. C would look at proposing mixed use east of El Camino Real only, and west of it would be maintaining neighborhood commercial use. That's colored red. Key differences to note. So again, alternative A represents the least change, the lowest growth in terms of homes and population. B and C would look at introducing, more residential or more residents and more population growth. So you can refer to the chart that's underneath the alternative land use maps. Are you receiving? So if you have any comments or thoughts about these alternatives, feel free to chat them to Nick. Any comments?
We just got our first comment here. I will read it out. My biggest concern is rezoning Molly Stones. There's been a grocery store there for 50 years, and it's the only one that's walkable there for nearby homes, many of which are already multifamily. Why not make it mixed use? like Whole Foods at Hillsdale with condos above it.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And yeah, today we're looking for feedback. If you think there's anything missing from the alternatives, please voice them. So we'll go ahead and note this in our notes. I know this is the last breakout session, so hang in there, everyone.
Comment that the strip along the south side of 43rd would be appropriate for residential above businesses.
Along 43rd. So along Olympic Avenue. 43rd and Olympic.
No, the very bottom strip there, extending out to the right of Mateo Bowl. That's currently a long strip of businesses behind Molly Stone's.
Oh, I see. Thanks
And
for clarifying.
And you could build above it, but don't lose the businesses.
Okay.
They just remodeled a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. We'll go ahead and make note. And thanks for clarifying the location. It really helps us. Just making sure that we're capturing the comments to the right location.
Question, do these maps mean Molly Stone's and Mateo will be replaced by housing? We need grocery stores and recreation in San Mateo.
Yeah, so we did get a lot of questions about, that the proposed land use does not match up with the existing use of the site. And I do want to mention that although the general plan, it may propose a differing land use, it does not mean that the existing use will be displaced. Yeah, but we are hearing that comment, and so we'll make note of that. Great. If it's okay, I'll go ahead and move on to the next study area. Next study area 6, this represents, this is the campus drive. So the existing use is mostly office. That's the purple color you see. It also includes the Laurelwood Shopping Center. And the existing land use is red for neighborhood commercial. For the different alternatives, A, B, and C would introduce medium residential use, which you see colored in the orange. This is within A, B, and C. A would maintain some of the existing office use. And so what you see, that's the lavender color. This is low-rise office. B would expand that residential use. So you'll see this light orange color, and that's for low-rise residential. Office use would be limited to this fuchsia color. So that's for medium office. C would remove office use entirely and propose medium-rise residential. Other key differences. So for the Laurelwood Shopping Center, A and B would propose changing it to low-rise mixed use. That's the light blue color. C would maintain the existing land use, red for neighborhood commercial. And so if you have any thoughts about considering office versus residential use in this neighborhood or in this study area, feel free to send them over chat. And again, any thoughts about Laurelwood Shopping Center? I do want to clarify, one last comment about, so for mixed use, we did get a lot of questions about, what does that look like? So mixed use allows for commercial. It's a mix of, it can include office and residential as well. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Comment back to study area 2 was I like the mixed use in B along 42nd and the additional high density in C in Lorry Meadows. So a little nuance there. And then comments here for study area 6 are bringing back restaurants and residential in this lovely view area. No need for office use. Laurelwood should stay. And then another comment for this area, how about a park or open space in area 6?
Yeah, so I do want to mention, so open space, what you'll see is it's represented on the map as this green letter P. And so that's for privately owned public open space. So anytime there is development on a private property, the city does require open space, as a part of the requirements for the development. So I do believe, so for example, the label Peninsula Heights, that's actually for an approved planning application for residential development. And there is an open space component to the project. Okay. And so it looks like we got feedback from our study areas 2 and 6. So I just want to make sure, Nikki, you got them. Great, thank you.
Another comment here, high-rise office in B would be great so close to Hillsdale Transit, and it would be a good mix with the mixed uses across the street.
Great. Thanks for that comment. There's no
additional
other...
additional interest in parks.
Okay.
And a time check of about another 9-10 minutes.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. So since we're halfway through, let's move on to the next study area. Study area 9, this is the Hillsdale Norfolk area. Just a quick reorienting everyone to the existing land use. So this pink color, that represents regional community commercial along Franklin Parkway. This is an existing Kaiser Medical Office building. Across from that, along East Hillsdale Boulevard, this is the Hillsdale Inn, also within regional community commercial use. East of the freeway, this red color parcel, that's the Marina Plaza Shopping Center. And the existing land use is neighborhood commercial. One more landmark to note is the tan color, which is for high density multifamily. The existing use of that site is for a assisted living senior facility. The different alternatives, A, B, and C, would introduce a mix of use concepts for the Marina Plaza Shopping Center. A would bring in regional commercial, which is this color that's sort of a faded red. B would introduce mixed use. That's a medium blue color. And so that's for a mixed use medium. It would also be tied with regional commercial use, colored in this red. C would look at designating Marina Plaza Shopping Center as a mix of neighborhood commercial and regional commercial. Other key things to note, you'll see that the parcel, that the current site of the Kaiser Permanente office, medical office building, that is recognized in the alternative for medium office. So this would change the current commercial designation. And across from that, the Hillsdale Inn, it would be changed to low-rise residential. And then there are these remnant parcel north of Poinciana Avenue. It's a mix of, so A and C would look at neighborhood commercial, B would look at low residential, which is the light orange color. So if you have any comments about study area 9, feel free to share them with us. Any comments, Nick?
Looks like we've got 2 here. Commercial regional tends to mean chain stores, and Marina Shopping has a lot of unique businesses.
Yeah, that's
and Alt B for Marina mixed use makes sense to someone.
Okay, thanks for that comment. For that comment about alternative B, could you perhaps clarify, why this alternative makes sense? Or is this connected to that comment about limiting regional commercial? No.
Two separate comments.
Okay. Yeah, so if you have more specific feedback about why you prefer alternative B, that will help us in our evaluations.
If we've got to get population in somewhere, it seems like a good place to put some stories above the businesses that already exist in that location.
I see. Thanks for clarifying. I forget that people are unmuted in the breakout rooms.
Yes,
Okay.
and our group has been doing really good. Thank you.
Great.
For jumping in there at exactly the right times for the
Yeah.
clarifications. We're doing kudos to you all at 8:30. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the clarification. So we do have one more study area to review, if there's no more comments.
There's one more comment
Okay.
about a little bit concerned about residential where the hotel is currently at Saratoga and Hillsdale because the traffic there is already a nightmare.
Thanks for that comment. We've definitely heard concerns about traffic along Saratoga. And so we'll go ahead and make note of your comment as well about traffic. Okay. So I can cover the last study area if everyone feels ready for it. All right, study area 10. So this is the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. The brown color represents regional community commercial. A mix of, it also allows for high density multifamily. So that's the Bridgepoint Shopping Center site. Along outside the shopping center, what you see colored purple, that's for office use. And that represents, so that's consistent with how you see the site today. There's the Sony office building on this parcel and similar office buildings. And the pink colored parcel you see, that's regional community commercial. That's the site of an existing hotel. The different alternatives being considered, A, B, and C, it would introduce a range of different uses, particularly for Bridgepoint Shopping Center. A would maintain regional commercial use. However, in B, you'll see that the light blue color, that's for low-rise mixed use. That would be introduced for a portion of the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. C instead would introduce medium rise residential use, which you see colored orange. Other key things to note. So this parcel that's right next to Fashion Island Boulevard, in A, it would be changing from office to medium residential, which is colored orange. And B and C, we would be maintaining some of the office use, which is the fuchsia color. So if there are any comments, thoughts about the Bridgepoint Shopping Center, about the office use, mixed use, feel free to share them with us. I'm just doing a quick time check. How are we?
Good. About 4 minutes.
Okay.
You know, I think I think also just if there are any comments about any of the scenarios, anything we covered from any topic area, whether it's circulation or, you know, downtown, you know, Linda, if it's amenable to you, I think we could just in our remaining couple of minutes here, open the floor. If there's, you know,
Yeah.
study area 10 or any study, any aspects, now would be a great time to capture that.
Yeah, please enter them in the chat because we are saving all the comments, all the public comments and feedback we get. Yeah, I'm also happy to do a recap if everyone in the room would like to hear so far what we've heard from this group.
A couple of comments
Okay.
are support for alternative C. Residential makes sense as long as some stores can stay. A secondary support for that same idea, and not so sure so much office space is needed post-pandemic. We need to see what happens here.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. Yeah. Does anyone have general questions about, you know, the online survey activity? Yeah, so if you feel that, you know, there is a lot of information that you're covering today, we do have the online survey that you can take at your own time. It's open until May 31st. And so the survey provides an opportunity for you to give us feedback, answer the questions for each study area. So 1 through 10. Looks like we have 3 minutes. I just saw the broadcast.
Comment that support for B and C, but there's a bit of a bottleneck of people trying to reach the trains, although it is great for freeway access.
Yeah, thanks for that comment.
A comment that this Zoom has been more informative than the previous presentations.
Thanks for the affirmation that we're doing better. We're trying. Yeah.
Request suggestions, some open space park would be nice here.
Okay.
I believe that's in response to the Bridgepoint area.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment as well.
More support for the team and more support for open space.
Great. Thank you.
And thanks.
Anyone have any questions about, the other study areas? What's next for the alternatives? Kind of just opening it up. Yeah, I know it is getting late, so we do appreciate everyone kind of sticking with us until 8:34 p.m. now on a Tuesday night. Actually, how about I just do a quick recap? We still have time, right?
1 minute.
Okay. Well, we'll see how far we get.
And a comment for open air concert space.
Oh, that's an interesting concept.
For number 10.
I believe so, but
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll put it in. That sounds cool.
Okay, so just quick recap before we get booted out of here. So what we've heard from this group for study area. Okay, it looks like we only have 30 seconds. Well, thank you everyone for your time. We do appreciate it. And we hope that you can complete our online survey after this event. And yeah, stay with us. We have more events planned in the future for the general plan update.
Okay, we're gonna move back to the big room. You
Yeah.
can click the button or you'll get beamed back there in 10 seconds. I just want to thank this group for being really proactive and assertive and getting your comments out there. And